3 years ago, my father stepped down as COO of the research firm he founded. For nearly 7 years, he had assured me that I would take over his role. So, it was a shocking blow when, during the retirement party I had meticulously organized, he unexpectedly named my brother-in-law, William, as his successor. This decision blindsided me. I had devoted 7 years to the company, while William, just 29 and married to my sister for 3 years, had only been involved for about a year. Although I respected William and recognized his contributions, I felt utterly devastated and unjustly overlooked. When I confronted my father in private, he justified his choice by claiming that William displayed more of the leadership qualities he valued. He believed William would be a better steward for the company's future. My father's doubts about my potential stemmed from a family dinner months earlier, where I had inadvertently revealed my struggle with generalized anxiety disorder by accidentally dropping my prescribed medication. While my mother responded with compassion, my father was less understanding. To him, mental strength was paramount, and he began to question my leadership abilities because of my anxiety. Despite my reassurances that my condition had never interfered with my work, he accused me of using it as an excuse, concluding that William, with his perceived resilience and qualities reminiscent of his own, was the superior choice for COO. This decision profoundly impacted my respect for my father and irreparably altered our relationship. He told me I was welcome to leave the company if I wished, making it clear that he lacked faith in my ability to lead. The realization hit me hard during his retirement party, prompting me to leave early and cut ties with him. The pain lingered. He had chosen someone else for a position I had been promised, seemingly influenced by his perception of my anxiety as a weakness. In response, I resigned and quickly sought a new job. Tensions escalated when my sister accused me of attacking her personally with my angry resignation over the COO decision, resulting in a rift between us. Over the past 4 years, communication with my family has dwindled. I occasionally meet with my mother, who implores me to reconcile with my father, but I remain uninterested. Recently, she frantically informed me that the new COO, William, had been arrested for tax fraud, implicating my father due to their connection. She urged me to reconnect with my father, possibly to testify on his behalf, but I flatly refused. The risk of being embroiled in a fraud investigation that might involve other executives was too high. I told my mother that if my father genuinely needed my help, he should reach out himself. I believed maintaining my distance from the company's turmoil was in my best interest. My mother accused me of being childish and insisted that I should speak to my father to mend fences, emphasizing the need for family unity in tough times. I found her demands unreasonable and remained firm in my decision not to contact him, which only upset her further. She called me selfish and heartless, criticizing me for holding on to past grievances. Her comments stung, especially since I felt she would struggle to forgive if she were in my position, overlooked for a COO position I had worked hard for. It felt unjust to expect forgiveness when my father hadn't even acknowledged the pain he caused. Our conversation devolved into a heated argument, and in a moment of bitterness, I remarked that the troubles befalling him and William were karma for how they had treated me. After a tense silence, my mother hung up, and I later discovered she had blocked me. I felt isolated and regretful about my harsh words, contemplating calling her back but realizing she had made that impossible. It's been weeks since she blocked me, leaving me cut off not only from her but from any familial support. Although my friends have been supportive, losing my last familial connection has been difficult. Despite the fallout, I believe I was right to point out that the current situation could be a consequence of their actions. My anxiety disorder, which my father blamed for my supposed inadequacies, does not hinder my leadership or work abilities. His words at the retirement party left a deep impression, shaping my feelings and actions ever since. For the last 3 years, my father's outdated views on mental health have severely affected my self-esteem, leaving me to question my decisions and feel like an imposter at my new job. It took significant time and therapy to begin addressing these unresolved issues, yet my performance at work remains strong, and I'm even being considered for a promotion. I believe my father made a grave mistake, and it's disappointing that my mother can't recognize that. She seems more focused on defending him than acknowledging the hurt inflicted upon me. I've made it clear that I won't be the one to initiate reconciliation. They must genuinely apologize for their actions before I even consider reconnecting with the family. Recently, my sister visited, clearly distressed over her husband's legal troubles involving a federal crime. Despite the tension, I couldn't turn her away and tried to offer emotional support. She was unaware of the issues until they escalated and expressed a desperate hope that I could use my workplace connections to help. She mentioned that my boss's spouse is a court reporter, suggesting I could leverage that relationship for assistance, even offering to pay for any help. I found her request inappropriate and firmly declined. I explained that I couldn't involve my employers or their connections in such matters, nor did I want to compromise my professional standing or moral principles. I had hoped she visited for emotional support, not to seek favors, and her request underscored how misaligned our values had become. When my sister approached me for help regarding William's tax fraud situation, I made it clear that, while I held no personal animosity toward him, I couldn't get involved in any legal manipulations. My decision was purely pragmatic. I didn't want to risk becoming entangled in a situation that could jeopardize my own position. I was open to offering emotional support, but that was the limit of my involvement. Despite my reasoning, my sister took my refusal hard. She accused me of harboring a grudge against her husband for taking the position I had hoped for at the company. I tried to explain that my feelings were more about the situation itself rather than personal resentment toward William. Sure, I might have felt a hint of resentment, but it wasn't a grudge. To me, William wasn't significant enough to warrant such feelings. Unfortunately, my attempts to clarify fell on deaf ears. My sister persisted, calling me petty and selfish, a sentiment that seemed to mirror what our mother had said. This led to a heated argument, and I finally asked her to leave my home. It was especially frustrating because during my own challenges, she hadn't offered the support I had hoped for. I was willing to extend my sister the benefit of the doubt. Her actions seemed to follow a long pattern of taking personal digs at me whenever things didn't go her way. The argument escalated quickly, with both of us raising our voices until we were shouting over each other, unable to comprehend what the other was saying. Eventually, she stormed out, leaving me deeply upset. Reflecting on the situation, I felt a profound regret for maintaining contact with my family over the past 3 years, wishing I had distanced myself sooner. This ongoing turmoil made me question the sincerity of the relationships I had. It seemed the support I thought I had from my mother was superficial. The realization that I had possibly wasted years trying to maintain a connection that was ultimately detrimental was painful, reinforcing the notion that distancing myself might have been the better choice from the start. Even after my sister's hysterical behavior and the exhausting fallout, I found it incredibly hard to completely sever ties with my family. Memories of our childhood bond tugged at my heart, making it even more painful to think about our current strained relationships. It was disheartening, and I often wished it could all just be resolved. For days passed in silence after my sister's dramatic visit, leaving me to think perhaps my family had finally decided to leave me alone. However, today my parents showed up unexpectedly, determined not to repeat the same mistake I made with my sister. I initially refused to let them in. I told them through the door that I saw no point in rehashing old arguments or wasting more time. To my surprise, my father wasn't there to ask for help but to apologize. He admitted he had made significant mistakes and, although he knew his apology couldn't undo the past, he wanted to express his remorse. This caught me off guard. I hadn't expected him to acknowledge his actions, especially since the last time we spoke was the night he openly called me a disappointment at his retirement party. I listened as he apologized, and while I appreciated his effort, I explained that forgiveness wasn't something I could easily offer. The pain from the past 3 years, combined with his prolonged silence, couldn't simply be erased by his sudden acknowledgement of guilt. I told him I needed time to process everything and that I couldn't guarantee forgiveness. It wasn't just the initial betrayal that hurt but also the long period it took for him to recognize and address his wrongdoings. When he finished his apology, I braced myself for anger or an outburst, but instead, he expressed his willingness to give me all the time I needed, accepting that I might never want to rebuild our relationship. This moment was a significant turning point, revealing the complexities of family dynamics and the slow, often painful journey toward potential reconciliation. Even with his readiness to wait, the deep scars of the past made it clear that any path forward would be fraught with challenges. As we stood outside my door, my father shared a revelation about the past 3 years. He admitted that his decision was not just a mistake but a deeply misguided one, influenced by outdated notions of mental toughness passed down from his father. He confessed that the men in his family were taught to view emotional struggles, like anxiety, as signs of weakness, excuses for not meeting life's demands. When he discovered I was taking anti-anxiety medication, his fear of the business failing clouded his judgment, leading him to doubt my capability to lead. After our fallout, he harbored resentment towards me but eventually began to question his beliefs as he learned more about anxiety and even recognized some symptoms in himself. He had been contemplating reaching out to me when the scandal with William erupted, delaying his plans. Hearing all this left me feeling conflicted. While his apology didn't erase the pain of the past 3 years, it was a step toward understanding. I wasn't ready to forgive him yet and was still processing whether his remorse was genuine, but I was open to considering reconciliation. I asked him to return home, saying I would reach out if and when I was ready. He respected my wishes and left. During our conversation, my mother also apologized for her part in the misunderstandings and the quick judgments she had made. She mentioned that she had spoken to my sister, who, she said, also regretted her actions and wanted to apologize on her behalf. However, I felt that if my sister truly wanted to apologize, she should do it herself. Her current situation with William, while stressful, didn't excuse her past behavior toward me. Now, with most of my family having offered apologies, I was left with a lot to ponder. This unexpected wave of contrition from my family was overwhelming, and I needed time to decide how, or if, I wanted to move forward with each of them. Deciding whether to accept my family's apologies was one of the toughest choices I faced. For 3 years, I had lived without any real contact with them, except for my mother, and even our relationship had been strained. On one hand, I felt tempted to forgive and move past everything, eager to stop the constant replay of hurtful events in my mind. I didn't want to be held back by lingering resentment. On the other hand, I was unsure if forgiving them was the right decision or if it merely allowed them to escape accountability. The complexity of my feelings was compounded by my deep-seated longing for family connections. Despite everything, I missed them terribly, which only added to my confusion. I made it clear that I wouldn't assist my family with their current troubles, standing firm on my principles. This stance wasn't about whether they expected my help, it was about maintaining my integrity. I decided to take some time to reflect. If their apologies were genuine and not just a desperate attempt to draw me back in during a crisis, it could mean the possibility of mending our fractured relationships. Fast forward 4 months, and I've been busy with new developments in my life. Eventually, my sister, having dealt with her own issues with William, apologized in person. I gave her the same response I had given our parents, would consider reconciliation, but it would be on my terms. After much thought, I agreed to slowly rebuild our relationship, starting with monthly dinners. The first dinner was awkward, but their efforts to mend our bond were evident. My father even offered me the COO position at the family business, which I declined. For now, I need more time to decide if I want to take on such a responsibility. Amidst all this, there's been a bright spot. I've started dating a longtime friend. She's been the one who encouraged me to give my family a second chance. Our relationship has brought a lot of joy and new energy into my life, helping me balance the ongoing dynamics with personal happiness. So far, things are looking up, and I'm content with where I am.